There is a specific kind of workplace situation where no response is the correct response. If you defend yourself, you are defensive. If you stay silent, you are cold. If you explain calmly, you are condescending. If you apologize, you have confirmed the accusation. If you ask what the accusation actually is, you are deflecting. If you agree to adjust, you have admitted fault for something that was never documented. Every possible move has been labeled before you make it. Every door has a tag already glued to it. That is not bad luck. That is the signature of a boss who has stopped managing you directly and has outsourced the work of managing you to the rest of the office. The ordinary understanding of a bad boss is that they are a person. The worst ones are not a person. They are an arrangement. Somewhere along the way, without ever putting it in a slide deck, they have built an operating system of enablers, informants, careful climbers, and nervous onlookers whose daily function is to carry, enforce, and laminate the version of reality the boss wants told about whoever they have decided is a problem. This is what people in abuse recovery language mean by flying monkeys. You do not have to like the term. You just have to notice that the people around you have started doing work for your boss that your boss used to do themselves, which is why no response clears you. Correctness is not being evaluated. The evaluation already happened, upstream, in conversations you were not in, and the room has been briefed. You are not walking into a workplace in the morning. You are walking into a decision that has already been made, and your job is to behave consistently with it. Not every boss who frustrates you is running an operation like this. Most are not. Demanding managers exist. Poor fits exist. People who are bad at giving feedback exist. What we are describing has a different architecture. The difference is that the target is being managed through everyone in the office except the person whose job it is to manage them. Direct domination is risky for the kind of boss in question. If they scream, they look unhinged and HR gets involved. If they punish in writing, they leave fingerprints a lawyer could read. If they punish openly, they look petty and the team starts gossiping about fairness. What they need is a system that produces the outcome of personal retaliation without producing evidence of it. A network does that. It provides plausible deniability because the boss never has to deliver the blow. It provides ego supply because every person repeating the boss's framing is also confirming the boss's centrality. It provides surveillance because the people around the target begin reporting back on tone, expressions, lunchroom comments, and message wording. It provides narrative control because a concern repeated by 6 mouths stops being a rumor and starts being a consensus. It provides retaliation without a signature because by the time anything gets formalized, the groundwork is already done, and the formal step simply confirms what the office has already decided. The punishment arrives socially first and procedurally later. By the time there is a meeting, the meeting is a formality. That formality is built by other people. None of this works without a staff, and most of the staff have no idea that is what they are. Some of them believe the boss sincerely. Some of them are playing an angle. Some of them mean well enough that the damage they do never registers to them as damage. And most of them, the largest group, are not really doing anything at all. That last part is what makes it work. Start with the ones who believe. The true believer has absorbed the boss's version of reality with real conviction and experiences the boss as sharp, decisive, the kind of leader who cuts through nonsense. They do not know they are carrying a framing around the building because in their own head it is their own assessment. When they repeat the smear, it has weight because it sounds like independent analysis. Alongside them, doing the same damage for opposite reasons, is the career climber. The climber sees the boss clearly and decides it does not matter. They laugh at the joke about you. They pass along the observation about your last mistake. They find a reason to agree with the framing. Their promotion runs through the boss. Their next project runs through the boss. The boss has made it understood, without ever saying so, that loyalty is scored continuously. One of them is sincere. The other is calculated. To the target, the damage is identical. Different altogether is the coworker who approaches you with apparent warmth and tells you they are worried. This is the moral rescuer, the role most targets meet first and misread for the longest. The rescuer says people have been talking. They say your reactions are being noticed. They suggest, with soft eyes, that maybe you should think about how you are coming across. The rescuer is rarely working for the boss on purpose. They have come to see you through the boss's frame without ever noticing the transfer, and the concern feels real to them when they deliver it. They are also harvesting. Every frustration you hand them, every defense you make, every honest word you say about the situation will be upstream of the room inside 2 days. The hardest part is that some of them mean it. The framing is doing the damage. They are just the delivery vehicle, which is the first thing worth learning once you see what you are inside. The coworker who feels safest to vent to is often the one you can least afford to be honest with. Vulnerability in this environment is currency, and currency gets spent. Not every carrier of the story is that obvious. The gossip courier lives for information and is not aligned with anyone in particular. Their loyalty is to being the one who knows. The boss figures this out early and starts feeding them selective confidences, unflattering asides, strategic details packaged as candor. The courier distributes that material across the building under the cover of personality. They are not lying, they are repeating. What they are repeating has been shaped for their mouth. Different again is the institutional enabler, the senior manager or peer manager or HR representative whose job is technically to be a check on this kind of behavior and who has learned, over years inside that company, not to be one. They use procedural language, they stay neutral, they sound fair. Their function is to make sure nothing the boss is doing looks like what the boss is doing. Then there is everyone else, and this is where the system gets most of its power. The fearful subordinate sees what is happening and goes home and tells their partner how sick the office feels and lies awake at night replaying what they watched happen to you. At work, they stop defending you. They say nothing when your name comes up. Fear inside an office is rarely dramatic. It is a silence that used to be support. Beyond them is most of the office, people who have noticed the temperature around your name and decided, without ever saying so, that being associated with you right now is expensive. They are still friendly in the hallway and slower on Slack. They stop inviting you to the Friday lunch. They find something on their screen to look at when you walk past. What the network needs from the office is not aggression, it is distance. Most people provide that without being asked. The central mechanism running under all of this is triangulation. The boss does not bring concerns to the target. The boss carries concerns about the target to other people. They express worry to a senior peer. They express disappointment to a subordinate. They express confusion to a colleague in another department. Each of those people now holds a version of the story and begins to act on it. You, the target, have had no conversation. You do not know a story exists. The conversation is happening in your name and without you, and by the time you enter any room, it has been in there ahead of you. This is also why the instinct to argue the point stops working. Argument assumes two people discussing the same question. Here, there is no question. There is a description of you, already written, that you are being measured against in rooms you are not in. You cannot out-argue a description. You can only change what gets added to it from this moment forward. Running parallel to triangulation is the smear framed as concern, which is the most sophisticated tool in the playbook and the hardest to name in the moment. The boss almost never says you are bad. The boss says they are worried about you. They wonder if you are okay lately. They have noticed you seem frustrated. They hope you are not burning out. They are hearing things from the team and they are not sure how to handle them. The accusation never lands as accusation. It lands as atmosphere. Once 3 or 4 people are carrying a version of the story starts confirming itself. Sensing something is off, you become slightly guarded. Your guardedness is cited as evidence. Sensing you are being watched, you become slightly performative. Your performance is cited as further evidence. The network does not need you to do anything wrong. It only needs you to react. Every reaction feeds it. Information harvesting is built into the structure. A coworker who seems concerned invites you to vent. A peer asks, casually, how you are really doing. A senior person pulls you aside for a candid chat that feels unusually generous of their time. Each of those conversations is not what it looks like. Each one produces material. Your frustrations, your offhand jokes, your honest read of the team, your honest read of the boss, all of it gets repackaged upstream. You will discover, sometimes a year later, that sentences you said in a moment of trust have been rearranged into a case file about your attitude. Once you see it, written communication in this environment starts getting shorter and drier on its own. You stop trying. Your fingers just stop producing anything interesting in writing, because anything interesting in writing will be quoted back at you out of context, and anything candid is already a document in a file you have not been shown. Social freezing is the layer most targets notice first and understand last. People stop laughing at your jokes. Meetings stop inviting your input. Small talk gets shorter. You are still technically included, but the warmth is gone and you cannot locate where it went. Nobody has decided to freeze you. The boss has signaled, with framing and tone, that you are in a different category now, and the room has autocorrected. Proxy enforcement is the next move. A coworker or peer begins delivering messages that used to come from your manager. A colleague tells you people have feedback for you. A peer tells you the team has concerns. A subordinate tells you your tone is landing strangely. The boss no longer has to correct you. The boss has hired the office to do it. All of this produces manufactured consensus. By the time any formal conversation happens, there is no disagreement between you and your boss. There is a documented, distributed perception across multiple people, all of whom appear to have arrived at the same concern independently. The fact that they arrived at it because the same person seeded the idea is no longer visible in the record. Underneath everything is emotional baiting. You will be offered small provocations, a slightly unfair criticism, a public correction in a meeting, a comment calibrated to get under your skin. The bait looks like an argument. It is a prompt. The reaction it produces is the deliverable. Whatever comes out of you becomes material. The purpose is not to resolve anything. The purpose is to keep producing footage. The signs are jarring once you start listing them. Coworkers referencing information you only told one person. Multiple colleagues using the same unusual phrase about you inside the same week. Feedback with no owner, no source, no specific example. A peer who has started sounding like your manager when they speak to you. A meeting where a small mistake is held up like a museum exhibit. A review of something you said that focuses on how it apparently landed rather than what it actually was. A boundary attributed to you that you never set. A coworker who tells you they are just trying to help, and you walk away smaller than when you arrived. None of these things is enough on its own. That is the design. A single instance is always plausible as a misunderstanding. It is the accumulation that tells the truth, and accumulation is hard to put in an email. And at some point you notice you are doing two jobs. The first is the work you were hired to do. The second is the work of surviving the story being told about you. The second job is unpaid, invisible, and slowly taking over the first. This is where most targets try to build a case and find they cannot. The abuse is not an event, it is a pattern, an accumulation, a texture, and a coordination. Any single moment held up on its own looks small, possibly trivial, possibly paranoid. The distributed structure of the attack is the exact thing that makes it impossible to evidence in a single document. If you try to explain it to an outsider, you sound like someone describing vapor. If you try to document it, the worst parts of it were tonal, relational, and social, and they leave almost no trace in email. The only thing that ever reads correctly to an outsider is a pattern, and a pattern requires time and records. Targets who stand a chance learn to keep a running log, dated, factual, without commentary. The log is not a weapon, it is a translation device, the one format that can carry something distributed across weeks and multiple people to someone who was not there. Your own discomfort, however real, is not yet a case. A case is what someone outside the system can see and verify. The target does not only lose ground at work, something starts going wrong inside their own head. They rewrite a 2-line Slack message 4 times before sending it. They catch themselves in meetings tracking not what is said, but who glances at whom and how long the glance lasts. They notice they have started apologizing for asking questions. Jokes go first because jokes are risk. Directness goes next because directness is evidence. Then sleep starts going. What erodes is not their performance, it is their trust in their own reading of reality. They used to be able to tell when a room felt off. They used to be able to read people. Now they cannot tell whether they are picking up on something real or inventing it. The network damages the instrument the target uses to perceive what is happening to them. At some point, usually later than it should have, a calculation starts inside the target that they did not plan. It is not a bold decision, it is arithmetic. A hardened network rarely corrects itself. Every additional month spent inside one pays out in nervous system damage and reputational erosion that cannot be recovered from the inside. The exit math begins earlier than most targets let themselves admit it does, and almost all of them, looking back, wish they had run the numbers sooner. Most organizations do not actually reward courage, they reward calibration. Courage is loud, visible, uncomfortable, and has poor short-term returns. Calibration is invisible, low risk, and rewarded continuously by small signals of inclusion. When a news story starts circulating about a coworker, most people are not running an ethics calculation. They are running a survival calculation. Do they want to be the one who defended the wrong person? Do they want to be associated with someone the boss has labeled as difficult? Do they want to stand between a senior leader and a preferred narrative? Most of them do not because they are bad people, but because they understand what it would cost. A lot of what passes for organizational loyalty is not moral loyalty. It is proximity management. People want to be close to whoever is stable, favored, and safe. When a target begins to slip in the social standing of the office, the room reads the slip and recalibrates. Peers who are friendly get cooler. Peers who are neutral get more distant. Peers who are competitive get sharper. Nobody announces any of this. Everyone feels it. The network runs on the everyday preference human beings have for a stable lie over a destabilizing truth. To defend you, a bystander would have to accept that their workplace is not what they hoped it was, that their manager is not who they had trained themselves to believe, and that the institution they depend on for their paycheck is protecting the wrong person. That is a lot to absorb before lunch. Most people will not do it. The last layer of the machine is language. The boss does not say they want you punished. The boss says they are concerned about your fit. The boss does not say they are building a case. The boss says they want alignment. After a few of these translations, the design becomes obvious. Every phrase available to a manager in a modern office is also available as a weapon. Concerned about fit, staying in the loop, what is best for the team, mindful of perception. There seems to be a pattern. These phrases are socially acceptable in every meeting, defensible in every review, and carrying the same payload as open hostility dressed for work. Professionalism is not being violated here. Professionalism is the costume. Ego protection is the body underneath. None of this flattens every difficult manager into pathology. A demanding boss criticizes clearly and to your face. They apply the same standard across the team. They do not need an audience to correct you. They do not need to contaminate the social environment to make their point land. You can disagree with them in the morning and still work together in the afternoon. A network boss personalizes disagreement. They treat a challenge to the idea as a challenge to the person. They require loyalty rituals, small verbal confirmations that you are on their team. They split the group into allies and threats. They outsource correction to peers and subordinates. They build a social environment where the truth of any given event depends on who has more backing in the room, not on what actually happened. The difference matters because not every loyal subordinate is a flying monkey, not every critical review is a smear, and not every click is a coordinated campaign. What we are tracking is the specific moment normal friction hardens into a coordinated network, because that moment has a different shape and a different survival logic than ordinary office conflict. The real cost is not the bad boss. Bad bosses have always existed. The real cost is what the system teaches everyone around them. It teaches ordinary professionals how to participate in someone else's distortion of reality. It teaches them that calibration pays and courage does not. It teaches them that a person can be professionally destroyed in a room full of witnesses without any of them having to say anything direct for it to happen. That lesson does not leave when you leave. It stays in the building. It trains the next hire, the next promotion, the next small refusal to speak up. The most dangerous boss is not the one who lies about you. It is the one who can recruit enough of the people around you into the lie that reality itself starts feeling negotiable. That is the moment the system has finished its work, not when the target is punished. When the rest of the room has lost the ability to tell the difference between what is true and what has been agreed upon. By the time you walk into the meeting, the story has already left the building.